It escalated rather
quick.
quick.
This is the theme of this year. Oh, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
Which I think every farm and really every business goes through that.
We made a switch. We bought a new tractor that could do that. Right equipment, those are big things. And then I just think of the right equipment with hand tools, anything that can help you work smart while you're working hard.
Yeah.
Got started mainly because my wife, who's a city girl, I'm a country boy,
Okay.
said she wanted to move to the country. And we had just built a beautiful house, and she said, I'm ready.
Get me out of here.
And that, by doing that, we weren't exactly coming into this summer planning to do that. We were planning to kind of do what we normally had, kind of bump up production by about 50%. In order to help support what they were wanting to do, we had to really ramp it up.
Leading up to that, I had started like paying attention to like, what is all of this stuff in, body lotion or body soap that you know, just anything. What is all this stuff?
If anybody else was kind of like in your position, what's the number one thing that you would recommend them to do? Okay, so we were at a really cool place this morning, our first tour in Indiana. We were at Shanti Farm. You're Angie and you're Dave. Tell me a little bit about what we've got going on here and kind of how this got started.
So it got started mainly because my wife, who's a city girl, I'm a country boy, said she wanted to move to the country. We had lived in Fishers at the time that we decided we were going to move somewhere in the country. And we had just built a beautiful house, and she said, I'm ready.
Get me out of here.
And so we went on a search and looked a lot of different places and found this place. So that's what the genesis of getting here is. I would probably say what we're about is the land, the animals, and everything that we can do to make it better.
In what aspect? Like, are you trying to go like organic, regenerative, like anything in specific to that?
Regenerative probably sums it up best.
Okay.
When it comes to the land, I would say the thing that comes to mind first is disturb as little as possible. We're more on the don't turn over the land, till it unless we absolutely have to. It's really not a choice.
Right.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to veggies.
Sure.
But I think that goes with our animals as well. Treating them with respect, treating them as best we can, and I think Angie can speak to taking care of them quite a bit.
Yeah, I like to let them make their own decisions, right? So we have kind of our setup here gives them full range. They're all like free range, the chickens and the ducks. We have about 100, it's hard to keep track, 100 and some chickens and 130-ish ducks that we raise for eggs.
Okay.
I mean, really, if you've got like 20 chickens and ducks, having 200 is really not that much different. It really is not that much different.
Yeah.
Until it comes to caring for them.
Okay.
But we like to let them free range in this in the safe area. Let them decide where to go and when. Like the alpacas, the only day they get handled is on shearing day, which makes it a very dramatic experience. But we just don't. They're not halter trained. They're just like everyone. Just Shanti means peace, so that's what we try to cultivate as much as possible. It's just peaceful. Everybody do what's right for you, and let's enjoy life.
Yeah. You've got chickens, ducks, and alpacas. Why do you have those livestock? Like, why did you choose those ones specifically?
So the alpacas we chose before we had a vision of what we really wanted to do. We knew we wanted animal, but we didn't know for why or what. It just, we got here and we're like, oh, I think we should have animals. So I started like researching, and alpacas are awesome because they are super low maintenance. They are easy on the land. They're easy to take care of. They're adorable. So we were like, alpacas. Yeah. So we researched them. So they were sort of grandfathered in. Now the rule is that if you live on Shanti Farm, you have to do at least 2 jobs. They don't. They contribute a lot to our compost, but beyond that, they just help to create the ambiance of peace. Here they come.
And here they are.
Here they come.
And we've done an alpaca tour before, and he talked about how sweet they are.
Yeah, ours are not so. They are spicy.
Oh my. Yeah. So I need to watch my back while in here?
No, they won't. And they have never spit at us, but they're Surrey alpacas. They're a little bit skittish. And because we don't handle them, they have a tendency to be, I think they're like big cats. Everything has to be their idea. If it's not their idea, then you can forget it. But they're adorable, and they just require very little. They're normally like, when we have guests, their snacks is usually what happens. So they're like, where's the goods?
So you just have the 5 here.
Yeah.
Are you going to expand your herd of alpacas, or no? They're just, it is what it is.
We've even considered getting rid of them because they're not really contributing to the bigger vision. But because they're very inexpensive, you know, a lot of people like to come and see them, and they're kind of in it. So it's just easy to keep them. They're fine. We have one tough day a year when we shear them, and everybody's very upset. But other than that, the other 364 days are good.
So then what about the ducks and the chickens? How did you come about getting them?
So we started to think about eggs. I listened to all kinds of podcasts and videos and followed, you know, I had been following especially these lady farmers on social media.
Yep.
And they were having this debate, are you team duck or team chicken? And after listening to that, I was like, I think we need ducks. So we actually went to Heritage Meadows Farms, which is a farm just over on the west side, an amazing duck farm. Other things too, but they have a serious breeding program with their ducks and show and and their heritage breeds. So we started out with, I don't know, like 20 of those, 12 or
16
like
was
that.
the number, and we got 3 different kinds. I think it was 3 different kinds.
Yeah. So we started out with them and like, this is great. And so then we started to think, and then we had people that were actually interested in buying the duck eggs. So then we're like, we need more. So it's ramped up pretty quickly from then. About a year into that, I think a work colleague was moving overseas for an assignment and they had like a dozen chickens. She's like, hey, do you want to maybe like come and adopt them? And I was like, yeah, what the heck? Like I said, if you've got a few birds, having more birds is not, with a setup like this, it's fine.
Right.
And I had no idea how much I would fall in love with chickens. Love them. So ducks are very afraid. If you walk towards them, they will run. But chickens are the opposite. You walk towards them, they flock towards you like, oh my God, I love you.
You're right.
So between the two of them, you have a little bit of everything. So yeah, we love it. We love both of them, and we have a very healthy chicken and duck egg business. We pretty much sell every egg they produce.
Wow, that's awesome. So you have the livestock part of it, but you also have the garden, and I'm seeing some of it, and it looks like a serious outfit. So are we going there next?
Yes.
Okay, let's go there.
So we'll pause here just because compost is a big part of the vegetable production.
Yeah. So you've got it over here.
This is part of it. We kind of start here with the compost we produce on site and let the chickens do their magic. This pile is actually a couple yards of compost, but they do their thing. They spread it, break it down. They fertilize it. Add to it. They do their thing. Once it gets a little bit further than this, we'll move it over into a bigger pile. And
which is that back there?
Yes.
Okay.
And nearly all of that we've acquired from other fellow farmers or people that have animals that we can take advantage of and try to keep costs down as much as possible, although we do buy some because a good example, that was probably 50 yards when we started, and it'll be 15 to 20 when it's ready, which will be next year. So
yeah. And what do you use that for? You use that in your garden?
Where we're going.
Okay, let's go see it then. Yeah. Oh wow, that's a pretty big garden.
So we have a few things going on. Probably the biggest reason you go, oh wow, is we expanded this year to support another farm's CSA program, Community Supported Agriculture.
Yeah.
And by doing that, we weren't exactly coming into this summer planning to do that. We were planning to kind of do what we normally had, kind of bump up production by about 50%. In order to help support what they were wanting to do, we had to really ramp it up.
Why are you helping them? Did something happen or?
Well, their farm is mainly about meat, and they have a great distribution channel, and they wanted to take advantage of that and thought, produce. We're already making deliveries every day of the week. What else can we do? And since we sell our duck eggs to them, we raised our hand when we said they were interested in it and said, we'd like to participate. And so that led us to, they said, yes, let's do it. Let's try it out. And we knew we didn't quite have the production. Okay. So it was a little bit of a scramble to ramp up what we were doing. Basically, we needed more growing space. And we have plenty here. We have plenty of space to grow more.
Because you said you have 12 acres total here.
12 total.
Yeah, and it looks like, this is part of your property line. So you've got tons of extra space that you could use in the future. So if you started growing for yourself, why did you start growing for yourself initially? Were you selling that produce, or was it just for you guys to eat?
So I think you do a good job of telling the story of why we started.
I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, I don't know, 10 years ago. Leading up to that, I had started like paying attention to like, what is all of this stuff in, you know, body lotion or body soap that you know, just anything. What is all this stuff? And it's all poison, basically. Yeah. So I started like making every possible thing I could on my own. And then we started saying like the most important thing was where does our food come from? How is it grown? So our partner farm is Tyner Pond Farm here in Greenfield. And I've been buying our meat from them ever since they started because of the transparency. You could go out, you could see how the chickens and the cows are raised. He describes in great detail, like we have shared mind about that. Yeah. And so it really became about where does it come from, and I don't want all that junk on it, in it, whatever. Yeah. So that's where we started, even with a tiny little garden in our house in Fishers, which was only just like 8 or 9 years ago to this. Then it was like, yeah, but if it's good for us, like we want to help others. If other people want to know where their food comes from, come on out, see how we grow it, see how we raise it. That's what inspired the soap. You know, what is something that everybody uses that you don't understand? Like there's poison in there. Yeah. So it's really just like we wanted to know where our food came from, and then other people started saying, "Hey, are you selling that?" That was always the question. "Hey, are you selling that?" So then we quickly were like, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah, that's
you know,
awesome.
I think that translated very well into vegetable production, which growing veggies, it always sounds great. Very difficult when you don't use traditional methods.
Yeah. You mean conventional method, like sprays and
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure we were understanding this thing. Yep.
So here we don't use herbicides, pesticides, fungicides that don't follow OMRI, quote unquote organic. So everything we do, and we've been asked a lot, are you organic or are you going to be organic? Our answer right now is no, we're not. The amount of time and paperwork it takes, and she works a full-time job. Okay. This year I just started working full-time here. There isn't enough time, and I don't know that it adds to what we're doing. To put a stamp that says organic.
We use organic practices. Right. We just aren't certified organic. Yeah. We don't use any toxic chemicals. I mean, we grow from seed, so like we can tell you everything about everything that's produced here.
And with that, there are major challenges. I mean, and anyone who grows in this fashion knows what those are. The big learning this year has been the importance of our soil, and soil health can mitigate a lot of those challenges. I won't go into a big dissertation about that. I will give credit Jesse Frost in Kentucky. He has a farm there, and I recently read his book, and it kind of sums up, disturb the soil as little as possible. Focus on the health of your soil. What we've seen in the short term is when areas that we've implemented those practices this year in the short term, it's been really good results. There are areas where we have disturbed the soil, and a lot of it's because we had to break ground and start fresh. The other part of it is it's a lot of manual labor. It
is a lot.
It's a lot of fun though. Right in front of us here are just some fresh beds that we put in.
Can we go look at them?
Yeah, absolutely. The idea behind these beds are, what you see here is off to my right are some what are called silage tarps. And what we do is mow the grass down as low as possible and put these black tarps on there. And basically what it does is it cooks everything underneath, literally. So we have the silage tarps down 6, 7, 8 weeks in the summer when it can kill off those perennial seeds. Then we come in, and what we put underneath what you're seeing is some 50-pound paper. No chemicals in it or anything like that. That goes down first, mulch, and then planting soil. Okay. And then we plant right into that.
And you keep the beds basically open and open. You don't have, I guess I see wood chips, so there is like some mulch, right? Yeah. So you are doing like some cover over it.
Yeah, we basically put the paper down, smother it with mulch, and the idea is it's going to help suppress those weeds. And then planting soil where we're going to actually plant in those areas.
So show me your garden. What do you have growing here? So those are new beds.
New beds, some tomatoes, some green beans, carrots right here. And we're gonna go random because this is where we expanded and really planted what I had available. We've got some kohlrabi and green beans in this row. Butternut squash, which is no surprise. All squash takes over everything that it can.
It does.
That'll be ready in the fall. Some different types of other squash in here. Patty pan yellow, zucchini, spaghetti squash down at the end. Pumpkins. We got pumpkins in a couple different rows here.
Are they pie pumpkins or like
these
Halloween
are
pumpkins?
jack-o'-lantern.
Okay.
Cucumbers on the ground. We've always trellised cucumbers, but cucumbers have been the bane of our existence this year. I'm probably on the 10th round and just haven't had a lot of
Every year
success.
there's something that doesn't go the way it's gone every other time you've done it. Same thing with our green beans this year. They were terrible. They were been our highest production crop for years.
Yeah.
This year they were awful, so we just ripped them all out.
How do you like manage the stress of that when it comes to trying to run a business? Like if you're like, I'm trying to grow this because people want it, but it's not growing. How do you manage that?
What we found is having a diversity of crops helps, because we know something's not going to go well. So this year it was green beans, and I don't have green beans to sell. You know, that's kind of the way it goes. We sell what we can, and
if we have lots of other stuff, then it sort of makes up, because it used to be we were thinking like, let's hone in on, you know, the 4 or 5 things that we do really well.
Right.
But if one of those things doesn't happen, which, like I said, every year it's been something doesn't grow like it did before, and then also people don't buy what they've bought before. Like there were years where we could not, I mean, we sold out of tomatoes like this year, tomatoes, but not, so like nothing stays the same.
And that's not something that you can like predict either.
No
like,
way.
You can't just say like, hey, what are you gonna buy next year? Because they don't know.
Well, and we do surveys, usually at the end of each summer season. We do growth all year round, but the end of each summer season, we say, you know, like, what was your favorite thing? What do you wish we had? You know, things like that. Like we started growing radishes from a survey a couple of years ago where a few people were like, we'd eat radishes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, you know, like what they say isn't what then happens all the time. So you just have to kind of prepare for as many variations as you can, because there will be stuff that happens.
You have 4 high tunnels here. Did these go up like all at once or one at a time? Like how did that progression go with putting these up, and why did you decide to put them up when you've got some beautiful crops in the ground here?
I'll start with kind of the why. The why, it gave us year-round production. And these are unheated. We still can get year-round. And one of our main crops that we've grown every year and become pretty good at is lettuce.
Yeah, that is our biggest.
Yeah, lettuce. And
everyone wants a delicious fresh salad.
Yes.
In winter still.
And in the summer. Because right now we're one of the only people producing, because it doesn't like heat, but he does an amazing, he can grow lettuce.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that started it. We did start off with 1. We lived and learned, and we went to 2 after another year. And we had these 2 for probably 3 years. And this past year, we did something different. We asked for help. We set up a GoFundMe. We did that in the spirit of, as opposed to asking the government for grants, we wanted to give people the choice and say, if you want to support us, here's what we're doing, here's why we're doing it. We'd love your support. And so we went that route, and that provided us with one of these high tunnels. We can show you all the crops that we grow in here. We'll kind of do a tour of that. The fundraiser that we had allowed us to get another one. We bought another one on our own. You know, it's been awesome. These 2 they're slightly different sizes. We really like the 50-foot run. 50 feet is for when it gets hot, not so much when it gets cold, but when it gets hot, they're more easily ventilated. Once you start to go longer, the people I spoke to, the research I did, and my own experience at another farm, that middle part of them, when you get to 100 feet or longer, unless you have electricity and fans and things like that, which we're not going to have out here, it gets stuck. Then you've got challenges with all kinds of issues with fungus, and that, as humid it is in Indiana, you're going to have those kind of things happen. So
the other thing I would add about why we did the greenhouses is I love growing in them because you just eliminate a lot of the uncontrollables. So like a big storm comes through and drowns out, you know, something that's out here, but in there. So tomatoes, for example, monitoring tomatoes, how much water they get, is 100% the success you're going to have with them. So to be able to control that, to know how much water they're getting, when they're getting it, and to not be trumped by Mother Nature, that's the beauty of greenhouses, in addition to growing year-round. Those, I think, are the 2 reasons that we love them.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the research you did about the length. Everybody always wants like, oh, if I can get it longer, then it's just 1. But I didn't even know to think about the fact that, well, if it's longer, then it's hotter. So that's really interesting. Oh, and you've got your tomatoes up. Look at how big those things are.
Yeah, so we're in prime time right now, and it's been an interesting summer because it's been so cool. And with that, you see a lot of green veggies on here, and that's been this cold snap that we've had recently. You know, tomatoes like it hot. We've got a lot of fruit, just not a lot ready to harvest.
Not yellow, a lot of green fruit.
We something else every year with tomatoes we're learning, and one of the things that we did this year is we don't ripen a lot on the vine. We harvest when it's blush, and then take it into our big barn, and we've got some tables. We'll set it out and let it ripen.
Why do you do that?
Well, we have a lot of heirlooms in here, and heirlooms are notorious for cracking. I won't say that we won't have them in the future, but they are high maintenance. They're delicious, they're awesome. It's just a way we're trying to maximize them. And we do it with our slicers as well, and they're delicious.
But when you take them at first blush, then it reduces the risk of, it doesn't eliminate it, but it reduces the risk of bugs getting it, the cracking, just any of those other variables.
Yeah.
And they do great. You know, in a couple days on the table, they're ready to go.
Yeah. What is this? I'm looking at this. I don't think I've ever seen something like this before.
Tomatillos. This is new this year.
Oh, okay.
And this was a request from another farm for their CSA, Tuttle Orchards. And one of the things I asked them, I used to work there, by the way, up until this year, another great farm. And they're looking to add things to their bundle from local farms. And this is one of the things they don't grow on site. And I said, well, I'll give it a try. So we grew this and provided some for their
So it looks
bundle.
like there's like a little airbag around it. Is the tomato inside, or like what does it look like?
So I don't know that I have one I just harvested, but this little shell, the fruit is inside, and it's really, you can see I can press on that a little bit. That one just started. One that's closer, but it's not quite ready. This is firm.
Oh.
What you look for is when this husk that's covering it cracks that open, that means it's ready. And they are delicious. We've made our own salsa verde with it. Here we go. This one just started. This one just started to crack. So this is ready to harvest. See that?
Oh, that's interesting. It's like it's got its own little like casing.
Yeah, it does.
Right?
Its own little cocoon there. So this has been, again, something new, a new plant, lots of learning. We will be pruning and treating them a little bit differently next year after this year's learning. But it's been interesting. You said tomato, it's in that family, but you treat them completely different.
Really?
This will go into the fridge, and
You never put tomatoes in the fridge.
Yeah, so you treat them completely different. These need to. If you do that, they'll last 2 to 3 weeks in the fridge with their husk. You want the husk on them, and they're delicious.
Interesting. Oh, I'm gonna have to get a little more curious at the farmers markets now.
Yes.
See if
This year we're offering a salsa verde bundle. So we'll give, in the bundle is tomatillos, poblano peppers, and cilantro, all that we're growing right here. Oh. So you have more than half of the ingredients that you need to make salsa verde. So
that's really cool. Okay, so anyway, we've got, so you've got 2 other greenhouses, but then I'm seeing stuff down here. So you've got corn, some other stuff. Sweet corn seems to be things that farmers like either definitely do or definitely don't do. Are you on like a one side or another with sweet corn?
First year for sweet corn for us. So
jury's still out.
Yeah, I'd like to think it'll be every year. Going back to how we plant and how we treat the ground, that's going to be a challenge with sweet corn. I don't know that I have a great answer right now for disturb as little as possible. Sweet corn does not do well, near as well in a no-till situation.
Have you tried like this is your first year. Have you thought about trying like a Three Sisters situation for it?
Possible.
Yeah.
You know, I've looked into it. There's different variations of Three Sisters. I got this up and going very quickly. You won't hear this very often, but it's on drip tape. And it went fast, maybe a little bit too fast for it actually. So we'll see. I'd like to say we're absolutely going to do it every year. I've got to figure that out though.
Yeah. Speaking of figuring it out, so you just came on the farm full time.
Yes, this year.
And Angie is still off of the farm. So how are you guys managing your time? I think that obviously it comes up a lot because of Paul and I's story of burnout, overworking, overwhelm, and figuring out how you want to spend your time on the farm versus with family or, leisurely. How is that in your mindset? I know you just came on the farm full time, so you may not completely have it like dialed in, but I'm just curious where your mindset is on that.
Well, I think the thing it's a transition full time here. Prior to that, I worked part-time year round at Tuttle Orchards, 3 days a week. and then every bit of my other time was here. So I've been working, you know, used to 6-7 days a week, lots of hours for years now. The thing that in one of your videos that I went through and watched was the burnout. The 7 years is kind of the mark. It's definitely been forefront of our mind. You know, how do you balance this? How do you make it happen? One of the things is having the right tools is a biggie for us. You know, we're not spring chickens anymore. You may have that mindset of being 25, but I'm far from that. You know, so making sure we have, you know, the right tools in place to help us. And so we made some investments there. And I think of these high tunnels as tools as well, to kind of working, not afraid to work hard, but also working smart. The balance thing, I don't know that I have a great answer there. I'm not very good at, I'm kind of an all-in, full go in anything I do.
This year has been very different. I'll say that, you know, I have said since we moved here, people are, you know, vacation time, oh, where did you go? Everyone assumes you go somewhere. It's the opposite for me. For me, if I can be here and not be working my other job, that is the best. So I always say, like, we've built a life that we don't need a vacation from. Also, though, I mean, I would like to go see my family overnight, and overnight trips for both of us have been, that is not a possibility. It's just not possible. That has been a challenge this year, I feel like. I've done a lot of things by myself that we usually do together, which makes me then feel guilty that he's home doing everything. We're doing easily twice as much, maybe 3 or 4 times as much as we've ever done before this year. So we keep saying, like, at the end of the season this winter, we're gonna, like, let's just do a recap. How did it go? What do we think about that? What do we want to do again or not? Because it's not like I need to go to Mexico twice a year like we used to do when we lived in Fishers and there was nothing else. It's not like that, you know, to really think like it's just not possible for us to go up to my family's lake house for a weekend. Like, that doesn't, I don't love that.
The addition of meat chickens this year has kind of been that game changer.
Do you want to go walk over there? We can talk about it.
Yeah, that's been a game changer from a time standpoint, and being able to do things like you're talking about and that Angie was talking about, because it's chickens, the chicken chores, you know, even though it only averages, and this is from the time we get them till the time we take them to the processor, you know, an hour a day, twice a day. You know, they need to be fed, watered, and all that, and move the tractor. So just not something that you're going to find a farm sitter that can do all those things and want to do it, and then do it so that
to our standard. I mean, we've learned that you have to have a certain level of, because people never do it the way you want them to. And if you're particular about, you know, and we are particular about the way things are done here, it can be a challenge.
So we're walking over to the chickens, but I want to segue that. You mentioned having the right equipment. Can you talk to me a little bit more about what is the right equipment? What do you mean when you say that?
So a couple things. Before we own the place, but we didn't live here, is we got a small tractor, and we needed something that could do a little bit of everything. Lift, move, mow. And so we got a small 2 Series John Deere tractor that could do all the things that we needed. Could bush hog, to mow the grass, move dirt, manure, compost, you name it. Did a great job. The next thing we got was a gator, a side-by-side. Because our garden isn't right next to anything, moving crops back and forth, whether we're planting, harvesting, again, we're not spring chickens. So lifting things, you know, one back injury for one of us puts us in a bad spot. And so that was something I'd say for us was the right equipment, and we used both those things to death. This year, we moved here in 2017. We had that John Deere. It was awesome. It was just too small for in one particular area, lifting capacity. And we wanted to keep our costs down with feed. You know, we've got several hundred birds. We've got meat chickens. Being able to buy totes, 2,000-pound totes, and move those around became necessary to keep costs down. So we made a switch. We bought a new tractor that could do that. Right equipment, those are big things. And then I just think of the right equipment with hand tools. Anything that can help you work smart while you're working hard is that category I'm talking about. It's just having that mindset of, is this the easiest way? Is there an easier way? How can I multiply myself with something? And then I think another thing is, I'm not a mechanic. Angie's not a mechanic. So, you know, buying equipment that you're not going to have to worry about is important, because all the things we need it to do, we need it to do that. It's a tool. So if it's down because it's older and it needs to be worked on, that's big trouble for us. And, you know, you live and you learn. We've done things where we've tried to cobble something together and it just didn't work. And by the time you spend all the time, because that's a big thing, it's just your time, and the clock's ticking. So that's a little bit about tools.
And speaking of equipment, I see your chicken tractor is it that the Miller design?
So, not sure.
Okay.
I can tell you where we got it though.
I've seen it. Is it from an Amish family?
Okay.
Oh,
we
Miller. That's who does our chicken.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. They sell this. This is kind of a funny story, kind of not.
I think it's her. I think it's Marsha's son.
Gideon?
I think so.
So J&M Poultry processes our birds.
Yeah.
We did not get this from them.
Okay.
I didn't even know, even working with Gideon, to set up processing with them. I got this from Ackerman out of Ohio.
Okay.
It was on clearance, which was what drew me to it.
Yeah.
I'm pulling up to J&M Poultry the first time, and there's no crops in the field, and in the distance I can see they've got the setup, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. It would have probably cost us a little bit more to buy it, but I would have preferred to have it 30 minutes away than 3 or 4 hours away we originally got it from.
Either way, these tractors are really cool. So do you want to take a look at them? Because if you want to talk about, you're not a spring chicken, you are heavy in your equipment, these tractors make it really easy. I'll let you go ahead and talk about them.
Yeah, so all the things I talked about, tools fits on this.
Yeah.
The setup here is you move it once a day, if not twice. We're coming up on moving it twice a day. It's got to be easy to move, and you just move this thing by hand. On one end, there's a lever that you simply pull up. It raises the entire tractor.
And it picks up these wheels. It's on a cable here, and it picks these wheels up. So you don't have to put the wheels on, take them off.
No.
There's no, nothing against Joel Salton and his tractors. We loved those tractors. But you don't have to special weld your own dolly for the tractors, and they're aluminum. So they're not that heavy.
The biggest challenge with this one is it's 24 feet long, and this is not an absolutely flat ground. When they get bigger, like they are now, you need 2 people. Okay. One to move the birds, the other to pull through the ruts and so forth. That's why this is mowed down. Is the other challenge.
So why did you originally go with the 24-footer? Just because you didn't need 2 of them then? You just could use one? Use one. Yeah.
Get as many birds as possible in an area. We backed off the max number in the last couple batches. The last batch was not on purpose. This batch, we lost a lot of birds in transit, which was...
I keep hearing that.
They were delayed.
They were delayed by about 30 hours.
Oh my.
Yeah,
that's terrible.
It didn't go well.
So how many chickens are in here then?
So right now there's 176, which is a better, so we had, in the first batch, we had 20 more in here. Okay. And it's just, I feel like it's just too many.
Yeah, this looks like a pretty solid number, I feel like. They're not too crowded, but they're eating the grass down,
Yep.
Like that's kind of what it looks like.
Eating it down, and just looking at them visually, they're clean. When you've got 20 more in here, there's not as much room. Candidly, you look at them, you're like, oh my goodness, that's disgusting.
Now talk to me about the feeders here, because I hadn't seen the feeders on the side like that.
So the feeders, we won't take this all the way off, but you just lift this side up. There we go. And then you can scoop feed right in. So that's one of the selling points they have with this is you don't have to go in to them to take care of it. And the water is just a gravity fed system.
Oh yeah, that's really nice.
It's a bell water that's in the center, and it just uses gravity.
So it's just up here.
Yep.
And it's on brackets.
Yep, and it's got this little tube.
It goes all the way, it's over there, I see.
Now on these hot days, we started doing this. Even the first time we started supplementing water, because when it gets hot, I don't ever want them to run out.
Yeah.
And it gives them another spot to...
They're not crowding on water.
Yep.
Right. That's
like when we moved the tractor, you can see where the water was. There's just a spot with a little bit of grass, and they've been around it a bunch. This has been something new, and it started off with Angie saying, maybe we should do like 25. From 25, I mentioned at Tuttle where I used to work, that we were going to raise chickens. They were like, well, we'll buy them. And I was like, okay, time out. Here's what we were
That's
thinking.
not what I was saying.
Yes, I wasn't saying it so you would buy them at all. And that led to ramping up to 4 batches and a couple hundred each. So it went from we have a chicken tractor that we've used. That wasn't going to be near big enough.
Yeah,
to this.
It escalated quickly.
Yeah, it escalated rather quick.
This is the theme of this year. Oh, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
Which I think every farm and really every business goes through that to see if you're ready to move forward, right? Like, do you just want to keep it as small as scale as possible, or do you want to move it up a little bit? And so you have these years where you're like, hey, actually that wasn't so bad and I enjoyed it. I think we can move forward going up. Or you're like, I want to back off and stay really small. And I think that's really cool about what you guys have seen and the connections that you've made. You're not selling direct to consumer yourself, right?
Yeah, we are actually.
You are also doing
Yeah.
that. Okay, so you are like on a 3 avenue. You're on yourself, you're selling direct to consumer, and you're helping out other big farmers with their
Wholesale.
supply.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot though.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's us though. I mean, we're typically like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try it. And I don't know, like
Figure out how to get it done.
yeah, this year we'll have to like, what do we think about that?
Yeah.
And it is really hard to say no when somebody wants what you've got, what you're doing.
And you know it's a good product and it's
Yep.
wonderful and you just want to share the wealth with everyone.
It's hard to think of not doing that, which it's a little bit of a drug, you know, like, oh yeah, you want our lettuce. Okay, we'll grow more lettuce. It creates that inertia of wanting to do more and more, but like you get to a point where you're sort of like, okay, can we even maintain, like, what is our threshold, threshold for this?
The chickens though did help us address this plot here. So this is about 5 acres, this field, and we weren't really doing much with it. And so this allowed us to say, okay, we're putting this to use. The chickens get to do their thing, and you can definitely see where they've been.
Yeah, right? Isn't that crazy?
The amount of fertilizer is pretty amazing.
It looks like you can see rows here where you've got the white flowers or you don't have the white flowers. I'm guessing the chickens were where the flowers are not?
Not actually.
Because it's dark and green.
There were different runs.
Yeah.
So we've been in and we're kind of rotating it. I'm making sure we're not going down the same path for various reasons. But you can see that. Now what happens is you kind of see there's no flowers there, but all of a sudden that will be twice as tall. And we're seeing it because the first batch we took over in this field, and the grass is significantly greener regardless of rain, and it's way higher. So
when we had our farm in Shelbyville, we did cows, pigs, chickens, right? So the pigs were on it the whole time. We ended up moving them to the back lot. We did cows, moved them every single day. Chickens, moved them every single day. And we sold it in February, and we went back in like the spring just to like see it, right? Because the new owners, they weren't putting animals on it right away. They didn't really know what they wanted to do with it. And it wasn't even first cut hay yet. And those fields were 10 feet tall.
Oh, I believe it, yeah.
10 feet tall for doing that for 5 years straight of cows and chickens next to each other. It was insane, absolutely insane. So, I mean, just to see the work that they can do, and you don't have to add anything synthetic to get that, you know, it's so, so cool. If anybody else was kind of like in your position, what's the number one thing that you would recommend them to do? If they're just trying to figure it out, they don't really have like much of a background in this, they don't really know what they want to do. Like I think about your alpacas and you're like, that's the first thing we got, but they really aren't useful on the farm. What would you recommend to people?
I think I would say just get started.
Yeah.
Why wait? You know, you could sit around and wait and think about it and plan and strategize all you want. Start somewhere and know that it may not be where you end up. But if you don't start, you're never going to get there. Where we started is not where we're at today, and I wouldn't change a thing. I mean, that's part of the journey. I think some of the lessons in there is understand that this business, there's going to be a lot of failure. There's going to be a lot of sad times, and those are the smaller parts. The upside are all the excitement that comes out of it and the joy that comes out of it. The customers that thank you because of what you're doing. You know, I can't say enough that's happened. So every Thursday I make deliveries. I make deliveries every day, but specific to our direct customers, it's every Thursday. And I like doing that because when I get to see them and just express my thanks, and a lot of times they're thankful that we're doing what we're doing. That's why we do it. But just get started.
I would say everything he said, and be ready to just, it's a learning. Like you never get there.
Yeah.
You never
that's so
figure
true.
it out, because like I said, we grew, as an example, green beans beautifully for years. And then this year it didn't. It's not my fault. It's not his fault. Sometimes it just happens. And if you take things like that personally, if you take them on your heart, it'll crush you.
Yeah.
So it's hard not to do that sometimes, but it's just, you just have to be ready for, let's see what this year's gonna be like.
Yeah.
You have to have a learner, just a constant learner mentality, and knowing things are gonna go well, things are gonna go not well, and you know what, we're gonna be okay. We'll learn from it and keep going.
Well, thank you both so much for having me out and sharing your time with me and showing me around. I love what you guys are doing here. We talk often about like diversification versus niching down, and I think you guys have wonderfully diversified, and your farm is absolutely beautiful, and I'm so glad that you're able to feed your community and help out other farmers and just feed more people. It's great what you're doing here. So thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. There's like a bittersweet moment to being back in Indiana right now. You're not gonna see this video until we are in North Carolina, but I just love being back to like my stomping grounds and meeting people that I still didn't even know existed. It's such a small town around here. Meeting people who are still just feeding their community and helping out other farmers. It's just so cool to see, and just like revitalizing that there are always small farmers out there just trying to feed their community. So we are still doing farm tours, and we're still gonna bring you along with us. I hope to see you at the next one.